Welcome to the Inside Silverstone podcast, a business-focused podcast covering all things tech, engineering and innovation. Hosted by me, Chris Broome, a huge tech, motorsport and gaming fan, and also the owner of Longhurst, a firm of lifestyle financial planners and independent financial advisors located in Silverstone, Northamptonshire. This is a series of unscripted and unpolished conversations with leading business owners, thought leaders and high-tech talent where we discuss their experiences within the Silverstone business and motorsport region. We will also be asking them to share their knowledge, insight and their thoughts on the future just for you. If you're looking to learn more about the Silverstone high growth region and commercially connect with like-minded peers, you've definitely come to the right place. Welcome to Inside Silverstone. Welcome to the next edition of Inside Silverstone. My name is Chris Broome and I am your host. Today I am delighted to welcome to the show Dominic Hopkins, who is a partner and head of dispute and litigation at Hewitsons Solicitors.
Good morning.
Dominic, thank you for coming on the show.
Delighted.
Dominic, as is customary, as I always explain this exact sentence at the beginning of every show, I'd love to run through a quick snapshot of your background. So that people can understand, our dear, wonderful listeners can understand why we've asked you to come on the show. Is it okay if I do that?
Of course.
Fine. So you're a solicitor, a lawyer, so clearly you would need a law degree. And so you obtained that when you were a little bit younger from the University of Exeter.
Indeed, the European Law School, which is ironic given where we are with European law at the moment.
Indeed. Career-wise, really interesting. So you're sort of beginning of your career as a young solicitor. You started with a company called Simmons & Simmons, where you worked for 4 years, where I've read online that you had a sort of brief stint in London, but then also a brief stint in Hong Kong.
Yep, I had a year in Hong Kong, and an exciting time that was. I was sent out as a young lawyer to work on a couple of the large banking collapses that had taken place. Behind those collapses were some frauds. I was sent out to...
This isn't quite an famous one, is it?
Well, they were famous at the time. One of them was called Carrian, the Carrian Group, which was established by a Chinese chap who managed to build a worldwide industrial and property group, and it failed because it was built upon corruption.
Right.
And so I was sent out by one of the large banks to investigate their operation out there and to find out, because the chief executive was found out to have accepted bribes.
Right.
And he was convicted and imprisoned. And I was there to do some evidential work within the context of the institution to establish what elements of corruption might be found out in that institution.
Wow, so pretty heavy hitting.
It was remarkable. In fact, one of the most shocking moments as a young lawyer, I came into the reception of the office, and sitting on the reception desk was the South China Morning Post, and I looked down, and there was a photograph on the front page of a swimming pool, and you could see a shadow in it, which was the body of a man who had been killed.
Right.
And that was a witness who I was due to be interviewing that afternoon.
My God.
Wow. It was quite an experience out there, and as a young lawyer, incredibly exciting. It was a very exciting place. It was before the handover to China.
Right.
And of course it was socially exciting. The work was fascinating, and so I thoroughly enjoyed my time. I have to say I came back quite tired.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was quite a wearing time, but it was wonderful.
How old were you at that time?
Oh, crumbs, I must have been about 23, 24.
What a wonderful experience. So London, then Hong Kong, and then back after a year and a half.
It's difficult, actually, when you get back to London, having been for a year in that kind of environment, to actually fit into a large, sort of fantastic global practice, but it was a large corporate firm. And I think I met my wife to be, and we decided that actually we would want to establish our family environment outside of the city. And so that really took me away from London.
And so you left London, and then in 91 joined
Hewitsons.
Yep. I joined Hewitsons, and I've been there ever since.
So 30 years.
Which is in some ways quite shocking, really.
Well, it's good.
It makes me feel rather elderly.
Well, but also a testament to both you and the organisation. You know, they're clearly an organisation for life, as it were, and you've clearly earned your stripes and got a decent position there.
Well, I'm bound to say, and you might say, well, you would say this anyway, but the Hewitsons has got a number of characteristics, really excellent characteristics, and one of them is we have excellent retention rates. I say retention rates for both our staff and also our clients. We have incredibly loyal clients, and we have incredibly loyal staff, and so perhaps I'm just simply symptomatic of a culture of a practice.
So what's the culture like? So why do you think? So from an employee perspective, why do you think people stay?
Why? That's a really interesting question. Why are the reasons that I stay? Maybe that's the answer. Yeah, and it's about the opportunities it gives you. Hewitsons has given you to do the work that you really enjoy, get fulfilment from, in a way in which you want to do it. So there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of respect,
which is important,
which is really important.
Yeah.
And it is not a place for empires. So there's a lot of the culture, and we can talk about this later, which to do with the college, which is something which is an initiative that we're introducing at the moment. But it's about collaboration. And whilst collaboration is a watchword now for so many organisations, I think Hewitsons has demonstrated that for many years. And part of the reasons for that, one of the reasons for that is we've had to, because at an early time, so 1989, two firms came together to form Hewitsons, and to succeed across geography in the days before video conferencing required collaboration.
Yeah, funny that. Yeah.
So I think that's been really one of the key characteristics.
And so you joined 91 as presumably a sort of junior solicitor.
I did. Yeah.
And sort of, as you said, so opportunity was presented, you took it, and sort of 30 years later, clearly prior to 30 years, you then became a partner in the business.
I became a partner in 95.
Okay.
Yeah.
So proof of concept. So the reality is that the opportunity is there, because as you said, a lot of firms potentially won't provide that. So for those that haven't heard of Hewitsons before, or maybe want to know a little bit more about you, so we've clearly established it's a law firm. So who are Hewitsons? What's your sort of flavour? What's your sort of niche and sweet spots, as it were?
Okay. Well, we're a commercially minded law firm.
Okay.
We have 4 offices: Northampton, Cambridge, Milton Keynes, and London.
Which was the first?
The first one, well, the two that joined together were Northampton and Cambridge. We, if you think about timing, the Northampton practice could trace its roots back to the 1830s. It was established in Northampton in the 1830s. It was essentially became the blue chip Midlands corporate practice. Lord Boardman was a senior partner through in the 1970s, former chairman of NatWest Bank, and that was a strong corporate practice. And the Cambridge practice, which had super credentials, good connections with the university, spin-outs, and those sorts of industry, that sort of industry. And then we opened an office in Milton Keynes next. And I can't think how many, 20 years we must be there now. And London is more recently, we've been there for about 5 years. And then we're just off Fleet Street there. So as a practice in terms of size, we're about 250 odd.
Okay.
So the largest of the offices is Cambridge, but we've got about 90 people in Northampton, about 15 in Milton Keynes, and in London, round about the sort of 20-25 mark.
And so you said it's sort of commercially focused. So what does that mean? So what types of businesses do you help? What types of problems do you solve?
The business that we represent are very wide-ranging. They can be of a global character, PLCs, to owner-managed businesses, to SMEs, to partnerships, a whole range of businesses that we represent across a whole range of sectors. And we also have a very strong trust and estates team, which work for high net worth and clients and charities as well.
Private households.
Private households, we act for a lot of entrepreneurs and people like that who've got a lot of wealth, a lot of landed estates. And we also act for one of the very significant characteristic of the work that we do has got a property element to it.
Okay.
So we've got a whole range of property type clients, whether they're residential developers, commercial developers, whether they're from the public sector. We are on the panel for Homes England. So property interests have quite a significant characteristic in the practice, but we also have technology as well is a big part of what we do. We've got a head of technology, Andrew Priest, in Cambridge. We've got specialists in intellectual property litigation and IP and data protection, and those sorts of things that pretty well a lot of the client base that we have really benefit from.
And also, we're sat here recording in the Innovation Centre and Silverstone Park, and so clearly a lot of the businesses here who have intellectual property and tech focused and technology focused, clearly would need that.
Our Cambridge practice was heavily involved in the establishment of networking arrangements in Cambridge, the technology clusters, that the investment that was taking place there, and so it's an obvious relationship that we would wish to have with the Silverstone technology. And
so you're head of dispute and litigation, and so what does that look like day to day for Dominic?
I wear two hats. I wear the day-to-day job of doing commercial litigation for clients, representing companies, businesses, organisations, charities, individuals in a wide range of cases. And I have a management role, which is to effectively look after a group of specialist practice areas. So our litigation practice ranges from commercial litigation to real estate litigation to intellectual property litigation to agricultural litigation, insolvency and corporate recovery disputes, contentious trusts and probate. So it's a wide range. And so we have specialists in all these areas, and I sort of have an oversight of looking after the development of those areas.
And I've, clearly as I do research, looking at lots of websites and reading what I can. So I've seen a fantastic principle stated on the Hewitsons website, or a mantra as I would call it, which states absolute client focus, which I love. So what does that mean? What's that represent?
Well, it means that when we are making decisions in terms of how we develop the practice, we start with focusing on the client. And that's basically it. It's where you start when you're thinking about how you develop a business. And in our perspective, it's not about us, it's about client.
And client outcomes, presumably.
And client outcomes, client interests. Because at the end of the day, we as solicitors have got one focus, which is representing the client's interests, acting in their interests. And sometimes the advice you give has to be maybe not what may be particularly palatable, but ultimately it's focused on them and their situation.
Yeah, telling them what they need to hear as opposed to maybe what they want to hear.
And ultimately, we want to achieve the outcomes they're looking for.
Sure.
And we believe we have a pretty good record of success in achieving those outcomes for clients.
Yeah, no doubt. You mentioned previously something about the college. So what's that? What's the college?
Well, I mentioned we've got quite a lot of people involved in different types of litigation, and that within the firm we have management structures, sort of business units, and I look after a business unit which is focused on the core litigation practice areas. But we've got people who are involved in disputes and litigation work across a whole range of other areas. So, for example, in the planning environment experts that we have, the employment experts who are working in non-contentious work and contentious work, construction lawyers are working in non-contentious, and so what we've done is to say, look, actually, this is really important to bring together all of those practice areas, the disciplines of those practice areas, what they bring to the party as a fraternity.
Okay.
A fraternity to ensure that we collaborate, and we're focused on collaborating for the client's benefit.
So this is internal. So this is solicitors within Hewitsons coming together.
And that involves a number of things. It's about ensuring that we're providing all of our litigation lawyers with good training in the areas that are really important for them to deliver the best service to their clients. It's about being able to discuss issues of common concern. It's about thought leadership. It's about taking a step. Within the technology environment, you'll have heard an awful lot about artificial intelligence working forward in areas of law, and we're really keen to ensure that we're up to speed with what changes are taking place in the market that can help serve our clients, help us serve our clients, and there are a lot of systems that are being trialed. A lot of ideas that are being worked on, and so getting to a place where we can talk together about what's going to be useful, because not everything is going to be useful, not everything's going to be affordable for a firm like us. And so what we've got to do is to do that, and the only way you can make the right decisions for what are the best systems that we can use to develop the practice to serve our clients is by having a place to talk and share ideas. So that's what the college does. And it also enables us to project into the market the fact that we are a disputes and litigation practice with a large body of resource which is available to clients.
Yeah, I guess that's the win, isn't it, for the clients? If you know that your solicitor's sitting down as with the entire company or all of their peers within the community talking about not only their area of specialism but other people's, when it comes to then delivering service and value and trying to find solutions and deliver on outcomes, as it were. Their broad range of knowledge will be higher and stronger, right?
We hope so. That's the objective, and that's what we're trying to do. We're in early stages of this college, and I have to say I've been incredibly encouraged by the positivity which my colleagues have all taken to this.
Presumably there's no age restriction, so from the most senior down to the junior, everyone participates.
The most important people we have are our young lawyers coming in, because they're the people who are very technologically aware.
Sure.
They're the people who are eager to learn. And they're the people who can actually deliver great training for us internally. We've shared what we have as a series of workshops. We put it now in a program of workshops internally, which are going to be presented by interns. We're getting external specialists in as well. So it's a whole range of things that we're working on to create this vibrant fraternity.
And where do you hold it? Is it in Milton Keynes or London or?
Well, we're all video conferenced up, so sometimes we might have a meeting in one geography, but mainly we've invested in quite high quality video conferencing facilities, and we can now. So we had, for example, those people who are involved in disputes and litigation will know that there's a lot of talk now about litigation funding. Third parties coming in to help fund cases, because we all know widely that litigation is an expensive thing to do, and that there are new funders who are coming into the market. So we had a funding expert coming in and talking to us, and he did a presentation across the video conference facility. And so that's just an illustration of the sorts of things that we're doing internally.
That's good. And so as we mentioned prior, we're recording this in the Innovation Centre, Silverstone Park. Our businesses, so Hewitsons and my business Longhurst, we're members of the Silverstone Technology Cluster. Why did you guys join the cluster, and how's it gone to date?
Well, the cluster is important as far as we're concerned because, and I have to say, as MEPC and Ros have done a fantastic job in getting the foundations right to be able to present the great opportunities that the area offers as far as its technology expertise and as a destination for technology businesses. And the reason we're interested is because we think we can help, because we've got experience and we've got people with expertise that we think are particularly interesting to technology businesses. I personally am, as we've already discussed, I've been here for quite a while in the region, and I'm a really strong advocate for the economic strength of the region, but not just the economic strength. It's also its intellectual capital, its creativity, and its geography in the context of a global market for technology businesses. And so it's obvious from my perspective to be a strong advocate for what's going on here, and to want to play a part in it.
And presumably you see this fitting quite neatly into what's becoming known as the growth corridor from sort of Oxford to Cambridge. So what's your opinion on that?
Well, the Oxford to Cambridge growth corridor is, I think, one of the most exciting developments for the region we could wish for. I mean, hey, we've got government looking at us and saying, you've got potential. And we say, we know that. Help us release that potential. Now, one cannot underestimate the challenges of change, but incrementally, I think the investment of effort and support of government, we've seen it in the SEMLEP, the South Eastern Midlands Local Enterprise Partnership, the focus on strategies which are designed to build on that ambition and the foundations that we have with some outstanding universities. Some fantastic logistics. All of these things provide us with a real opportunity and to make a difference and to grow this area economically for everyone's benefit. So unsurprisingly, that Hewitsons, we've got our own growth corridor group focused on that. We've got a client base which includes a range of property development companies, whether it's residential and commercial. We act for a lot of landowners, and of course, really important here, infrastructure, housing. These are all parts of the ingredients of essentially the growth strategy. Unsurprisingly, we're here and ready to help.
And big advocates of it.
Absolutely.
Which is great. So thank you, Dominic. That's really useful. I have read on your company website bio, as I sort of looked at this morning, you are personally Deputy Lieutenant for Northamptonshire. What does that mean?
That's a very good question. Well, apart from my day job, I've got two roles, which is I've got two what are called Crown appointments.
Okay.
I'm the Under-Sheriff of Northamptonshire and I'm Deputy Lieutenant for Northamptonshire. Okay.
So what are they?
So, well, they're rather unusual positions in the sense that they're unpaid. They are a privilege to have. They are different, and they have their genesis in history. So Under-Sheriff is basically I support the High Sheriff of the county. We have a different High Sheriff every year. And that's been the case since the early 1300s. And the role of High Sheriff goes back to Saxon times. Originally was the Chief Executive Officer of the Crown in the county. Largely ceremonial now, the High Sheriff's role, although they do have some constitutional functions. And the Under Sheriff acts as an advisor to the High Sheriff, and I do various of the constitutional work with the Privy Council associated with the appointments. So that's a privilege to occupy that. I've done that now for about 12 years.
Okay.
Deputy Lieutenant is a different role, because that's the other side of the Crown representation in the county. You have the High Sheriff on the one side, and then you've got the Lord Lieutenant on the other. Now, the Lord Lieutenant is the Queen's personal representative in the county, and is therefore the most significant of the two in terms of their precedent.
Yes.
And to that extent, I was privileged to be appointed last year by the Lord Lieutenant to be one of his deputies.
Wow.
And so when the Lord Lieutenant is unable to attend for whatever reason, he's got many commitments, then he might ask me to help him.
And so what's that role entail? So for the lieutenant, what's that? What does he? He's obviously clearly representing the Queen for the county. What would it entail?
Well, for example, I might preside at a citizenship ceremony.
Okay. Yes.
We also have a role in encouraging the nomination of honours, national honours.
Okay. Yes.
We also have a role in really being out there and thanking those people who are doing the unadvertised voluntary roles in the county, which are really important and deserve special mention and special recognition.
Yes.
And so we try to encourage people in the community in what they're doing for the benefit of the community.
So what you're saying is that if Ros from MEPC can really make STC and Silverstone Park a huge success, she should be coming to sort of tap you up for potentially national honours.
Well, that's not quite the way it works.
I'm teasing.
Is that we encourage the nomination of honours. So what we would do is to help and encourage people to put the paperwork in place for people who are doing a great job.
Yeah, understood.
And should be recognised.
You're also a SEMLEP envoy. So just very briefly, just if you, in a nutshell, just explain sort of what SEMLEP to do, and then therefore what is an envoy of SEMLEP? Well,
the local enterprise partnerships, we have those partnerships up and down the country, and they perform a really important role in actually building the relationship between private and public sector in terms of encouraging growth and enterprise, as you might expect, in their regions. And SEMLEP covers the region in which Hewitsons is in, and a lot of clients that we represent. And as you already heard, I'm a bit of an advocate for the economic potential of this area, and therefore it's made it's great that I'm able to help where I can in any small way.
Sure.
SEMLEP in promoting the work that it's doing, particularly in the shaping of industrial strategies, local industrial strategies, but also any other initiatives, and hopefully communicating what's going on, because a lot of it's about cascading information to people, to letting people know what SEMLEP are doing, what they're about, and making sure that people can sort of tap into the resources that SEMLEP offers.
Thank you. One of the last things I've read, something about being a Hall of Famer. So I've read Hall of Fame Legal 500. Wish you've now got a slight smile on your face, but what does that mean?
Well, basically, within the legal profession, there are a couple of independent directories who, over the years, have established themselves as a sort of a go-to place for people who are looking to choose their lawyers. And Legal 500 is one of those, and it's built a reputation for doing that, and what they do is they ask us to give them a bit of narrative about what we've been doing as a firm in our various areas, and then they also ask us for names of people clients who they can talk to get some anonymous but feedback on sort of the services that we've been providing. And so we participated in that exercise, as pretty well most law firms of our type have been doing for many, many years. And I'm privileged that my clients have given some pretty reasonable feedback, obviously, on what I've been doing for the last few years. And so Legal 500 last year established this thing called the Legal 500 Hall of Fame, and I just discovered I'd been included as somebody who's been consistently recommended by clients.
Well, congratulations on behalf of myself and all our listeners. I think that's a testament to the work you're doing. No better feedback than client feedback.
Well,
right?
I'm bound to say it's the client feedback that's really important to us. And as a litigator, commonly known as a bit of a bad news baby, if you're a litigator, not dealing with necessarily the most positive side of people's life, it's particularly gratifying when clients give you some positive feedback.
Bravo. Dominic, we're 30 minutes in. We've spoken about Hewitsons, we've spoken about beginning of your career, Hong Kong. 30 years, partner, head of dispute and litigation, absolute client focus, obviously deputy lieutenant, envoy, Hall of Famer, the college, STC, growth corridor. Is there anything else is there anything I haven't covered that, before I get on to the last two questions, that you'd like to, once I've got you on air, that you'd like to talk about?
I think you've got my life now, haven't you?
And obviously, you live locally, so let's cover that. Obviously, you live-ish locally, so you live in Northamptonshire, between sort of here and Cambridge. So we're in, obviously, Silverstone, but between here and Cambridge is where you're based, family, kids.
Yes, I've lived in Northamptonshire now. I'm from the Welsh Valleys. I started, I was schooled in a Welsh Valley comprehensive school, and I still have my Welshness well and truly emphasised. And so last year, 2 years now, 18 months ago, we started the Welsh Society of Northamptonshire, which we meet once every sort of 4 or 5 months or so.
So very happy after the Six Nations.
We are very happy after the Six Nations. And so if any of your listeners are Welsh and in Northamptonshire, you're very welcome to join the Welsh Society, the Cymru Club.
And they find that on Facebook or Google?
Well, get hold of me and I can put you in touch.
Yeah. Well, we can include in the show notes a link or contact details, etc.
Yeah, but it's a great time. We meet for meals and we might have a visiting speaker to talk about something of interest. What is good? It gives us the opportunity to have a sense of our roots in Northamptonshire.
Yeah, why not? It's important, right? Yeah. Togetherness.
I think one of the things I was struck with when I was living in Hong Kong, it's something about the expatriate Welshman, is that there's no more passionate Welshman than a Welshman outside his country.
There we are. It's a testament to Wales, right?
Well, there's a word in Welsh called hiraeth, and hiraeth literally is almost like a spiritual longing for the homeland.
Wow.
And so he doesn't have any sort of obvious English translation, but maybe there is something of that in it.
Yeah, definitely. Right, last two questions before I let you go. Embarrassing mistakes. I started asking people in the first series about embarrassing mistakes. We started with Pim as episode 1. The premise of it was purely to have some fun, is to sort of humanise everybody, right? That we all make mistakes professionally, personally, and is there anything in the locker that's funny and we can sort of laugh at? Appreciating that you're a solicitor and you'll have colleagues listening to this, and perhaps even maybe clients. Is there anything that you're allowed to tell us, Dominic, in the background that would make us have a little chuckle?
Oh, absolutely. And I learned something from this, actually. And this was as a relatively junior lawyer, but trained in advocacy. I had a certain degree of, shall we say, confidence that I could just stand up and talk. Mm-hmm. And I learned very early on that actually confidence is not enough. Mm-hmm. And that actually, in order to be able to speak with authority, you have to basically do the grunt work, the hard work.
Yeah.
And I was asked to stand up at a seminar many, many years ago. And I was quite surprised. It was rather late notice, me turning up at the seminar, and there were about 250 people in this room. It was actually Milton Keynes, if I remember rightly. and I did a bit of preparation. But I had not done enough preparation, and I was heavily reliant upon my notes. And I had my notes down in front of me, and they were in the dark, unfortunately.
Oh dear.
And I couldn't read the notes, and I thought, it's okay, I'll wing it. And then I looked at the screen for the PowerPoint presentation, and the PowerPoint presentation wasn't working very well. And I realized at that moment that I really hadn't mastered my topic.
Yes.
And I had 250 very attentive listeners who were about to listen to a rather, well, it wasn't a particularly happy moment for my, I wasn't particularly proud of it, to say this. It was a bit embarrassing. But I learned a lot from it. I learned that it's really important to prepare and that, not to have that misplaced confidence that you can wing things.
Definitely, certainly as a younger professional, and certainly in a public forum like that, there's no harder lesson, but an invaluable one.
Invaluable lesson,
yeah.
And I certainly encourage, and I have no problems in telling my younger lawyers who I'm working with of that experience.
Yeah, practice. Become a master and become wise before you stand up and.
Yeah, it's about work, hard work.
Sure.
I have 5 things that I will often say to young lawyers if I'm sort of recruiting, that they all begin with H, and is what I'm looking for, because I believe it's what the client's looking for as part of that absolute client focus.
Okay.
And one of them is hard work.
Mm-hmm. What are the other 4?
Okay. Humanity.
I love that. That's on our website. It's one of our main principles.
Really, really important.
Yeah.
That when you're dealing with a client, recognizing that they're a human being, and all that comes with it. Honesty. Being absolutely straight. Really, really important. Humor.
Yes, indeed.
That's a really important thing. So that, because actually when we're dealing with clients, particularly with difficult cases, we're dealing with them at a point of stress.
Yes.
And so that is really, really important. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about honesty, hard work, humour, and humanity. Those are really, really significant.
Last question. So we know we've got students listening to the show now, which is great news. We also know we've got some very well-seasoned professionals and business owners listening to it. And sort of last question always focuses on sort of life advice that you'd give yourself. And so, clearly 30 plus years, master of your field, recognised at Crown level and also at local level. If you were to go back to pre-Hong Kong, so when you're a little bit sort of more green, wet behind the ears, what one bit of advice would you give yourself back then?
What in terms of what I might have done differently?
Yeah, well, from what you now know.
No.
So slightly older, maturer, wiser.
I think it's, and this is particularly true for young professionals now. Is that, and more so I think than when I was young, which is there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of anxieties that people have, and it might sound really a bit trite, but actually it'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's a rather odd thing to say, but it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
And as long as you commit and you are commit yourself to what you're doing fully, and you do so and you work hard, really, and hard work is such an important thing. That conscientiousness is really, really important. And if you're doing that and giving of your all, it will be okay.
I have nothing else to add to that. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful statement. Dominic, thank you so much for coming on the show, representing Hewitsons. Delighted we met, I think it was a few months ago, wasn't it, at an event. Thanks for coming on. Certainly want to involve you at some point in the mastermind sessions that we're now recording with other fellow professionals, and so we'll have a conversation about that off air. But thank you very much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, and thank you very much.
The Inside Silverstone podcast is produced by the team at Longhurst for the benefit of those with a passion for all things tech, engineering and innovation. For more information, please visit longhurst.co.uk/Inside Silverstone, whilst also remembering to give us a 5 out of 5 star rating on iTunes. Please note that neither Chris Broome or Longhurst work for Silverstone Park, Silverstone Circuit or Silverstone Technology Cluster.